If you're looking for timely, relevant conversations about the most important topics in health coverage, you've come to the right pod. This is IBX, the cover story from Independence Blue Cross, hosted by me, Peter Panageas. So by day, I oversee all of our national commercial business here at IBX. I'm also a caregiver and a patient. We always say that healthcare is personal, and it is. So my guests and I are exploring how the big picture and the big issues affect our everyday lives and the well-being of those we all care about. Together, we've got this covered. So let's get started. Hi, everyone. This is Peter Panageas, and welcome to episode 14 of IBX, the cover story. For this month's episode, I want to discuss a topic that we at Independence Blue Cross feel very strongly about and continue to aim to be at the forefront of. And that topic is well-being at work. Many studies have shown that employees want their employer to offer workforce well-being programs. Plus, it's been proven that healthier employees are more productive and spend less on healthcare. So joining me today to discuss this important topic are two individuals that help lead the corporate well-being and fitness programs. First, we have Vicki Amon, the HR program manager of well-being at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and Joselito Huertas, who leads Independence Blue Cross's on-site and virtual fitness programs in his role at Exos. Vicki, Lito, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Peter. I'm happy to be here today.
So Vicki, let me start with you first. You spent time in a number of health and wellness-related professional roles over the past 30 years. Can you tell our audience what's influenced that career path for you, and how much have you seen the field grow?
Well, I'll thank you first for reminding me it's been 30 years. Can't believe it's been that long. And it's been a good 30 years, and I've seen and met a lot of people along the way. And I think a lot of experience comes with that. But in that time, I've been fortunate enough to work with thousands of employees on a one-on-one basis. And I've heard firsthand about the mental and the physical stressors at work. And I've also learned about employees' personal lives. And we spend the bulk of our day at work, and it's more and more difficult to separate work from home in these times. And in fact, those two worlds can often collide. So I've seen the struggles, and those struggles can unfortunately affect performance and safety and maybe the level of care being given to a patient and overall the employee's own personal well-being. So for me, this kind of confirmed that employees need that extra layer of support while they're at work. And for those reasons, I've just always felt this need to advocate for employee well-being. And then regarding the growth, back when I first started in the field, we would mention mindfulness, and it was just instantly frowned upon. And I would get this reaction of, you want me to meditate at work? What? I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. So now, mindfulness and resilience and social support, connection, mental well-being, these are topics that are a little bit more common now. And we've learned that a culture of well-being can be created over time in the workplace. It just needs that initial spark to get it going, and then it can grow from there. So overall, I think there's more respect for the well-being space and the impact that well-being programming can have. Employees, I think, are just more ready for that help now, and there's generally more buy-in from the employees themselves and now also from leadership as well. Quite a few changes.
Vicki, thank you so much for that. Great insight and a lot of history there. Lito, how about you, my friend? What's been your experience in the workplace around health and wellness?
Well, I've been in workplace health and wellness for over 20 years now. As a high school student, athlete, fitness and wellness has always been part of my life. And especially during the aging process, maintaining that functional movement to stay physically independent as we get older. In over 20 years, the focus on corporate wellness has become a priority for a lot of employers. Employers have been understanding more and more the importance of the mental and physical health of their employees. And keeping your employees healthy and more engaged in the workplace has evolved in many wellness initiatives in the last 2 decades. So not even from investing in fitness facilities and wellness programming in the last 20 years has grown, and that investment has shown for employers to see how the positive benefits that it has on their employees with a more present and productive workforce. So we've seen it more and more in the last 2 years. The importance of that has really grown with the behavioral health issues that we're having. And to hear employees say that wellness is a very important part of their work day, has grown throughout the many years in corporate wellness.
Vicki, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia does an incredible job of using innovative solutions to integrate health and wellness into your workplace. Can you share with our audience what are some of the ideas that have been successful to date? Or maybe, share with us, something that you thought might have been successful that didn't actually turn out to be as successful as you thought it was.
There are definitely a few in there. I feel like we've tried it all, and maybe that's our winning strategy. If it didn't work, we tried something else. And I think you have to try until you find that right recipe. I can definitely say that it's been a very proactive approach. We didn't sit and wait for employees to catch on to wellness and well-being. We really went out there and started talking about it to anyone that would listen. So it was very much of a grassroots effort at first. I simply started talking to all individuals about it constantly, any of those one-on-one interactions I had. And then I would ask them, well, what department are you in? Does your department know what we have available? And the answer was usually no. So I said, well, I'll go to your department if you like. And I did. And I walked and talked all over the hospital. And like I said, it was just so much of a grassroots effort. And then from there, I started giving presentations on different well-being topics. And I got a feel for what our population really needed, which happened to be managing stress, work-life balance, and resilience. Those were the popular topics at first. And then in the end, I'm one person for roughly 15,000 benefits eligible employees. So we created a well-being champion program, and they are my boots on the ground. They take the same information and they spread it faster than I can. And very importantly, they do it in a personalized way that works for their department. All departments are different. Some are doing patient bedside care. Some are in front of a computer all day, and their needs are different, and the way they receive the information is different. And our champions are able to really personalize that process. And I just can't give our champions enough credit for all they've done to promote the well-being program. We've also invested in a great well-being platform and also our EAP, or Employee Assistance Program. These two programs definitely drive our engagement. And we've also utilized our vendor partnerships to interconnect our programs. So if I'm on the well-being platform, I can get to through a direct link to our EAP program and vice versa. And we try to interconnect all of our programs and promote them that way. We're also very fortunate to have an on-site well-being team. We are small but mighty, includes myself, and we have two amazing on-site health coaches who are very skilled in coaching and very knowledgeable and aware of our CHOP culture. And we also have one on-site coordinator as well. So there's a person that employees can talk to face-to-face and just get that personal connection. Do it with a person it's just a little bit more meaningful that way. And someone to ask questions to. And then I work very closely with our coordinator, and we have established a basis of providing a number of events that we have each month. At one point, I think we had 50 events going on. So we have fitness and yoga classes. We do stop-by tables in some of our high traffic areas. We do health fairs and retreats, serenity rooms, vegetable gardens, fit checks, fit kits, adult recess kits, mindfulness practices. We have a full list of virtual wellness offerings, which is all of our presentations and workshops. And then everyone's favorite massages and smoothie events, which never seem to disappoint. So those are always pretty popular. So, and the list is longer than that. I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things we've done. And then in a lot of those monthly events, we will also partner with our ERGs, or our employee resource groups. And I also will try at any time to partner with as many other CHOP partner programs as possible. So this could be our recognition program, the foundation, trauma-informed care, Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and we also have a physician well-being program. And again, anyone else that will partner with me, I'll reach out and say, hey, how can we cross-promote and work together here?
Right.
So I've, again, very proactive approach, and I will reach out and talk to anybody that will listen and try to connect and get the word out. As far as things that were not successful. There's always those that switch to virtual when COVID hit, and a little bit of Zoom burnout through that process. But what we've found is that anything that takes too much work or is too long or complicated to understand won't get done. So if there's a challenge that has too many pieces to it, or for example, if yoga, we provide a yoga session. Well, maybe this group is just really physically exhausted and they're not really interested in doing anything physical. They want to break. So maybe a mindfulness session might be better for them. So I think there have been times over time we've learned to read the room better and really understand the needs of the employees in each individual group and make sure we provide something specific for them. So overall, they just want ease of use, nothing too long to read, nothing too long to listen to, or nothing too hard to do. And free food is always great. That always goes over well.
That is for sure. Vicki, that's a lot there, and incredible work by you and certainly CHOP. And we'll talk a little bit later about some of the innovative things that you're doing within your organization. Lito, I'm going to ask you the same thing about, not only what we're doing here, but, other parts of the organization. Vicki, I'll share this with you and our audience. A few years ago, Lito, when did we start our SRG games? 5, 6, 7 years ago now?
I'm going to say about 5, 6 years ago. Yes, correct.
Yeah. My management team and I, Vicki, got together to talking about, what are the things that we can do to help establish or develop a little bit more team building. And we came up with the idea of doing some type of sales and retention games. And my team and I, we run a lot of commercial business here for independents, CHOP actually being one of our clients that we serve. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we just thought it'd be a really fun exercise to get, a bunch of people together within just our team. There's about 65 of us or so, and create this, what we called as the sales retention games, or the SRG games. We approached Lito and the Exos team, and they came up with a whole strategy. And I'm going to ask Lito to talk a little bit about this to our audience and the work that we did. But, when you talk about, Vicki, earlier, that the mental and the physical stress that we're all under, the mindfulness, we didn't enter it from that lens. We entered it from the pure lens of team building and collaboration, and quickly realized as we were going through it, all the incredible benefits that these games created for us to help us with mindfulness, mental, physical well-being. Togetherness was really a cool exercise, pardon the pun, for our teams. So Lito orchestrated this for us the last number of years, and we're so blessed to have him right with us. And Lito, maybe I could just ask you to talk to our audience a little bit about the SRG games, and from your observation looking into our team, what it's meant to you and your team, to us and our team. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Definitely. I think, us as the Exos team at IBC and all around the country with all our clients, we're trying to better the wellness of all the employees of the clients we work with. And we try to always, cater to the masses and create these great programmings, and, recently with the virtual and hybrid versions of our challenges. But when a few years back, when you came and said and asked us to create a departmental challenge for your team, and of course, I'm gonna give you a lot of credit for that, because you're one of the pioneer senior leaders who started departmental wellness challenges. And now we have consistent about 3 to 4 other challenges throughout the year with other departments like business services and other the corporate communication and marketing teams that have done these games with the example of your department. And what happens here is we bring associates to compete in teams, right? And we achieve individual wellness gains, although we're competing as a team, but it's also about the individual, helping the individual better themselves. And as we say in Exos, greatness is a team sport. It creates a social motivation effect where everyone holds each other accountable throughout challenge. In the social motivation, we talk about teamwork, right? We're cheering each other on. This is extra motivation that you're not by yourself. And it's also, you're competing as an individual, but you're contributing to your team. We keep the challenges about 3 to 4 weeks long. We understand that behavior change can happen within those 4 weeks, because we want people to take away from this challenge, not just those 4 weeks with us, but go ahead and continue on their wellness journey. The positive benefits that we saw were associates that were sedentary become more active and feel like they contribute to the success of their team, at the same time improving their fitness level. It brings the department more together, which can result in better workplace relationships. We get this a lot where people sometimes I don't want to work out in my workplace because I don't feel comfortable. But people need to understand that sometimes being around your associates, that's your best support. And what happens is you meet new people in your company that you worked with in the past, and now I see their faces. But now you know them, you build a relationship with them, you competed with them, and now it's easier to get your work done. Because now you know these people more in a more personal level. Also, almost all the feedback we get after the completion of the challenge is positive and some inspiring as well. We also hold a award ceremony to recognize all the accomplishments. And one of the important things that Peter knows when it comes to rewarding individuals, we don't want to reward just the best. Who did the best? Who did the most push-ups? Who ate the best? And when we talk about we want to hit the mind, nutrition, the movement, and the recovery aspect of the program. So all the 4 weeks has all those pillars around them. But we want to reward those people who actually came a long way that you never thought would complete the program, committed to the whole 4 weeks, and saw changes within themselves. And another thing that we say in Exos is we want to ignite the hero in them, because we all have a hero inside of us. So the self-retention game has been a great revelation to my team. It helps my team become creative with our programming, even with this program, but further on to the whole program at Independence. So it's a great success, and we hope it continues moving forward.
Lito, thanks for that. And it's great insight. And no, I'm not going to take the credit. All the credit certainly goes to you and your team and the incredible work of the many captains that have, stepped up during the last, 5-6 years as we've been evolving this. Vicki, I will tell you, and please don't share this with anybody, but I will tell you that all the captains, I was always the last picked. I don't understand why, Vicki. I'm telling you, I was like the last picked, and it was like, memories when I was the last picked in grade school. I don't understand. They just wouldn't pick me. But we had a real competitive team, and they all wanted to win. They're like, we're not picking Panageas, that's for sure. Go ahead, Lito. Go ahead.
To one point what Vicki said earlier about simple. We want to keep it simple because not a lot of reading. And what we do as my Exos coaches, I have a team of 6 down here, and we try to take that away from them. We track all the progress. We assign captains to have one person who they're accountable to, who relates the information to the coaches here. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. We create videos, instructional videos. Instead of them reading, they'll see our faces, showing them what to do or asking them what they need to do during the program. And that goes a long way. Like you said, less for them to do, just do the challenge and we'll take care of the rest. And that keeps them more engaged.
Yeah, I really like how you've put so much thought into it and pulled in all these different areas of well-being into that one challenge, and areas of well-being, but also that working relationship and how employees are relating to each other. I think that sounds great. I'm brewing some ideas of my own here. I was going to steal your ideas.
Go ahead, by all means, definitely.
So, Vicki, let me pivot here. And Lito, I'm going to ask you to comment as well. Obviously the last 2-3 years, the world has changed, right? We've all changed, and COVID's impacted across the board. And CHOP, a lot like Independence, has leadership who totally supports health and well-being, mindfulness, our physical well-being. But in this new world of COVID, obviously things have changed. And Vicki, Lito, and I'm going to ask the same thing of you, right? So I'll start with you, Vicki, how have you seen the approach change specifically post-COVID relative to these types of engagements, mindfulness, well-being, all the things that we're sitting here talking about that was so uber successful probably for CHOP and certainly for Independence prior to COVID? What's some of the change that you've seen since then? Vicki, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the pandemic just really put a spotlight on things that were there before, but just were kind of compounded because of the pandemic, just with stress. Now stress it was there before, but now it became overwhelming. Fatigue was there. Now it's overwhelming. And we've had a lot of employees lead into a burned out state. So things just kind of were there before, but now everyone really sees it. And we see the extra challenges that came with COVID. There's a lot of employee retention changes now because of COVID as well. And I think there's just overall a little bit more support now and understanding of why we need these programs and how they do impact the bottom line for an organization, how they affect performance, how they affect the number of call-outs or healthcare spends, or ultimately the bottom line for that leaders are looking at. So through having these well-being programs, employee well-being can improve, and it will also satisfy the company's overarching initiatives. So I think, again, we always saw them and we always knew that those issues were there, but
Sure.
Now they can't be ignored.
Sure. It's an incredible perspective. And certainly one that, many in our audience who are listening are probably facing the exact same thing. Lito, from your lens, how about you?
Yeah, so one thing that we noticed throughout the pandemic is definitely the work separation from home. Where people are now working from home and have chosen to stay home more and has gotten the flexibility from their employers to be there. But now is understanding when it comes to the mindset about, depression and stress is they're not separating home from work. It's like you're on 24/7 because the computer is on and you're looking at the corner of your eye, even though you're supposed to be locked off to do your work or just be on with work and show your employer that you're actually successful and efficient. But that's become a tough balance for them. And what we try to do in our field is become more creative with engaging them away from that with other activities in the virtual world. We don't want them to have spreadsheets up all the time or Zoom calls all the time. So we try to create virtual interests and challenges, and meditation is become a big source in our business. When it comes to Exos, we're creating new Exos apps, and for people to participate in these mindset beginner yoga activities to get away from that, to take the minds away. Breathing techniques have become huge in our field. So definitely breathing workshops have become huge, and that's working at your workspace activities and de-stress for 5 minutes activities as well. So it's that separation that we're dealing with right now to help people with their mindset and relax more and find that balance.
I think you both touched on it too. Having the benefit and the honor of being in a leadership position here at Independence, I'll kind of echo what you both are talking about from a leadership perspective, that it is so critical as a leader in our respective organizations or any respective organization that leadership endorses and supports the great work, Vicki, you and your team do, Lito, you and your team do, supports whatever type of hybrid model that every organization's going through, right? Vicki, we here at Independence, we're what we call a hybrid of choice, right? Like the building's here, it's there for us. And we've got some clients who are back in full time. We've got other clients who are in a hybrid situation or fully remote, right? And we have to figure out as leadership how to support all of our clients that we serve, all of our employees who work with us, support the element of the work-life balance, right? Support individuals in really understanding that whether you're full-time remote, whether you're part-time, whether you're a hybrid of choice, or whether you're in or out, the element of turning it off is so critically important, and taking care of oneself is so critically important. And as from a leadership perspective, it starts there. It has to start there. And so anybody, in our audience who's listening from a leadership perspective, that would be my piece of counsel to all of us who are in this position to really reinforce with, members of our team, clients that we serve, that there is an important element of balance. Because Lito, you said it perfectly. 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night, you're hearing your phone ring, you're hearing your computer, ring, you're hearing your iPad saying that there's another email, there's another text, there's another call. And there has to be a balance of shutting it off and, reinforcing mindfulness, mental and physical well-being. It's so critical. And I think, Vicki, what you and Lito and teams do to kind of reinforce that with us, and from a leadership perspective, supporting that as well, I think more so now than ever in this new world that we're all living in, we've got to continue to live by that. Vicki, let me offer this. What was the change for you at CHOP to in-person to in-home approach for those associates that are still split? If you still have employees that are still split, love to get your perspective. We at Independence, we're a hybrid of choice. So again, as an example, today I'm in the office, and for the next few days, I won't be in the office. I'll still be working from home, but I'm not in the office as frequent as I once was. So Vicki, from your lens at CHOP, what's that shift been like?
Yeah, it was interesting. And personally for me, the company that I had worked for, I was always considered a remote employee, even though I was working in person at my site. My company was in Minneapolis. So I was kind of used to that whole remote thing, and that wasn't too outside of the norm for myself personally. But watching our top employees go through that transition, it was hard. It was rough. It kind of came suddenly, and they're not used to that. They weren't used to that world. Everyone was used to going to work every day. So it was rough. There was tremendous concern over not having, resources that they needed at home versus having them at work. Well, now I'm at home, I don't have the things that I need. Is my home environment conducive to work culture? How do I juggle family at the same time? And for managers, how to provide the same level of support for staff working in both worlds. So I think there was this sense of detachment and a lack of connection, and a big period of adjustment, and everyone just trying to get used to that, and everyone had to pivot. And as far as our well-being team and our well-being program was concerned, all the programming that we had planned out got thrown out. It went out the window very quickly. And I was like, okay, what are we going to do here? And what do we need to do? What do our employees need? So we had to be very flexible. We had to be very creative. We had to be very patient. But we knew that we had to work quickly because the struggle was real, and employees were really having a hard time with this sudden shift. So from a programming perspective, we focused first on resilience, and then we went into self-care because everyone's home now, and self-care is completely different, or maybe their gyms that they joined had closed down. And then there was that work-life balance piece. So that was also a big focus for us, and how to shut off, like you were saying, Lito, and how to deal with family and teaching math while you're giving a presentation at the same time, which happened to me a few times. We made a lot of referrals to some of our other partner programs for team building. We also focused on managing stress and balancing overall well-being. And like I've mentioned before, mindfulness and just being mindful and trying to live in that present moment versus worrying too much about what's coming down the pike all of the time. So I think now we have that flexibility to do both virtual and in person. We are heading back to doing more in-person events now. Probably about April or so, we started doing a few, and we have more coming. So we're in that shift, and we still have people that went home and aren't coming back, as far as they know, aren't coming back to work. So I think we have more skills now than we did pre-pandemic. We have had to build our resilience, and we found what worked and what didn't, which is a part of building resilience. And we have options now. We have more flexibility. We can meet face-to-face with a group and have a virtual link going at the same time. And I think you just have to, there's a certain amount of adapting. And I think shop employees have done an amazing job of that. And they've done really great work through that process. And they really have shown that they can do a top-notch job even if they're not on site. So I've been so impressed with their knowledge, their skills, their resilience. And I think it's just an ever-evolving process too. Through that whole process that I just talked about, there were a couple of different shifts and waves where we thought we were going back, and then that got canceled again, and then we thought we were going back, and then that got canceled again. And the whole pandemic had several different phases to it, and it was really just adapting to those as they come along. And we'll see what the future brings. Hopefully, a lot of good things and less COVID-19. But yeah, I think just being flexible and adaptive.
So, Lito and Vicki, I'm going to ask you to comment on it too from an employer's perspective. But Lito, in your experience, as you've done a lot of these types of trainings and events, how do you look at participation in any types of programs that are run when an employee is given an incentive versus when they're not? And Vicki, I'm going to ask you the same question from an employer's lens as well. Lito?
That's a very great question, because I think in this tangible incentive does bring the fire, the initial fire to join something, to join a challenge, be part of something. But in the long run, it doesn't sustain. It does not sustain the behavior. We've had challenges where you've had those tangible incentives, people still don't complete the challenge. They fall off. They don't consider it consider the value of that. What we try to instill is intrinsic motivation, right? That kind of incentive where we have to educate the people, have their mindset, understand that it's what you're doing for yourself that matters. Yes, you might get a gift card at the end of this. You might get a insurance premium break at the end of this and things like that. But at the end, it's if the results they're seeing within them, the changes that they see within themselves, that will continue them moving forward in their journey. People who do incentive type programs that are tangible, it's a short-term fix, and then they're done. They're done with the process. I got the reward that I wanted. I succeeded in this, but I got this tangible thing. What's next? Sometimes there's no next for those individuals. The important thing is to build that. Yeah, it fired them up, but at the end, the best results, the best feedback that I get from participants in challenges are those who tell me, Lito, those 4 weeks were great for me. I've become more active. I've lost this amount of weight. I have more energy to play with my grandkids. That's what we look for. We don't look forward to the awards show and hear this $25 gift card, or here's this break on, whatever it may be, or this comp gene day, all that kind of, we do some things we offered in the past. It's those intrinsic motivation that matters. And we try to educate and build a knowledge in people's mindset to value those more than the tangible ones.
Well said. Thanks for that. Vicki?
Yeah, I think you're always going to have, that batch of individuals that are, I'm just in it for the money, and then I'll do what I have to do, and then I'm done. And then you have plenty of others that are say, this is nice. I appreciate the incentive, but I'm doing this for myself anyway. I think you're always going to have those two groups there. But like Lito said, we always do want to tap into that intrinsic motivation. That's really what we're gunning for. Regarding CHOPS program, that we've had an incentive in place for a number of years, and it's always been there since I've been there, actually. And we have employees that participate in it. Not all of our benefits eligible employees do participate in it, but a lot of them do. But outside of that piece of our programming, our engagement still remains very steady in all of our other programming. So we still have good engagement across the board with all of our programming. The incentive is one piece of it. So I think the incentives are nice. They are important. I think you have to look at who your population is, and if this is something that's good for them. I think it definitely helps. I like it. I use it. I do it. It definitely is a nudge for me. But we also know that if they're participating in something else might happen along the way in that process. If they have to complete a health screening, for example, then they might find out, oh, I didn't know that my cholesterol was high, and maybe they do something about it. So I think an incentive is always good. I don't think it should always just be the basis for your programming. You do need other pieces to go with it.
Yeah, I agree. When we've done our events over the years, having those rewards or incentives are always appreciated by folks. But I think, to your point, the element of the true intrinsic change that someone's looking for, the ability to be part of a team and a competition, I think that probably for some folks is probably more worth than that little gift card that we might be rewarding at the end. It's the camaraderie, it's the team building, it's the opportunity to do it, which unfortunately you lose a little bit when you're virtual, right? And I think, Lito, we actually saw that at our most recent SRG games, where we actually had participation drop a little bit. And part of what Lito and I and the management team are going to be working with is how do we create that level of energy to bring that back forward? Because I think we had, prior to COVID, we had a pretty big participation who were engaged in these games, and obviously being remote changed that a little bit. So it's really incumbent on us working together with our health and wellness coaches, Vicki, you and your team, Lito, you and your team, to figure out how we can get more creative and innovative beyond the $25 gift card, right? Or the offer of somebody wearing jeans to work. Nobody's back to the office, so why? There's no incentive there, right? Right. So it's those types of things. So Vicki, as we were prepping for our show a few weeks ago, you mentioned that health coaches and trainers are all real people too, quote unquote. Thought that was really, really interesting. So I'm going to ask you and Lito, as we wrap up here, if you both can touch on your experience as employees helping foster a better relationship around health and wellness from your lens as an employee, what that means.
There's this perception that wellness is always easy for us because this is our jobs. And, I believe in wellness very much so and all that it can do. And I'm a motivated person, so that certainly helps out quite a bit. It's maybe easier for me than it is for some others, but no matter who you are, it takes a certain amount of work and being proactive to maintain a state of well-being. And I'm willing to put that work in because I want that. I want to reap that reward, and it does work for me. So I think as an employee working in wellness and working with other employees, I've always been very open and shared my journey, my challenges, my successes. I like to just tell it what it is, like it is. I have a glass of wine sometimes, and I like to eat ice cream after my soccer games. So, we eat these things too, and sometimes we veg on the couch. We're just like you. We do practice wellness, and I like to kind of keep it real and be relatable when people think that we are not sometimes. There are these super wellness people. And as an employee myself, I know that I can be a little bit of a workaholic, and I have to remind myself. And I like to coach myself often, just as I would somebody else. I coach myself, and I have to remind myself to participate in my own self-care, and I need to recognize, what my needs are at any particular moment, and they might be changing day to day. So I participate in the program just like everyone else does.
Thanks, Vicki. Lito?
Is a great question. Absolutely. Many people we work with do think that us coaches or trainers have perfect lives of wellness, which is totally not true. Trainers and coaches, we have our ups and downs. We get too busy. Life does get in the way. We can suffer from anxiety and depression. This allows us to understand our clients and the people we work with. Wellness does not happen overnight. People have to understand that. Even if your wellness and fitness goals are reached, right, the journey does not end there. So wellness is a lifetime journey. So there will be continuous. You got to recalibrate your goals throughout your wellness journey. What we as people and coaches have to do is keep creating new goals and set our mindset to attack new stressors in our profession and our life. So sure, if you are an individual at home needing, energy to chase your kids, or an associate employee who needs to come up with a breakthrough idea at work, or an athlete securing a spot in a starting lineup, whatever moment that matters to you, right? Find a support team, those in the workplace for in this instance, that will ignite the hero in you, right? Greatness is a team sport.
Well, let me offer this to Vicki. I'll share this with you and our audience. When I was training a few years ago back with Lito, I was always curious as to, there were certain days after my training, again, going back to you're all human, right? There were times after my training session with Lito, I feel really, really good, and I would be able to walk normal and I wasn't too sore. And there was other days that after he trained me, I couldn't walk for a week and a half, and I didn't understand why. And then I actually brought the two together, Vicki. I realized that every time his beloved Yankees or Giants lost, he was grumpy, and he took it out on me, and I could never walk normal for like a week. And now, so I decided, Rick, to go ahead and schedule all my training sessions 1 or 2 days after a Giants game or a Yankees game. So, but all joking aside, you guys have been incredible guests, and I can't thank you both so much for being with us today. And as I do with all of our guests, I'm going to ask you one closing question. Each of you, I'm going to ask each of you to respond. And Lito, I'll start with you. If there's any 1 or 2 or 3 things that you would want to share with our audience, what would it be?
Just to understand that you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. Personally, during the pandemic, it was rough for me. As you know, Peter, I'm a social butterfly. I get my energy from you guys, from the people I work with. And, staying at home was tough. It was tough for me. So I went through it like everyone else went through it. And what I suggest for people is to think about yourselves. What small things can you do to better your day, right? To improve yourself. So don't sit back and wait for things to happen for yourself to improve, whether it's in your career, wellness. Attack it, right? Take charge of it. Write those small goals down. You have to write it down because you think they're overwhelming, but when you write it down, you can see how easy they are to attack.
Vicki?
I'll take this one from a little bit more of an employer perspective. Listen to your employees and find out from them what it is that they want, what they need. I think that's been one lesson learned along the way is to really have those conversations and listen and learn, and then tailor your programming or whatever you're providing to those needs, and offer options. And well-being is not a one-size-fits-all thing. So you really have to investigate what those needs are, and then you tailor things directly to those needs. And I think you'll have a lot of success with your programs.
Vicki, Lito, thank you so much for being with us today. You guys have been an incredible guest.
Thank you for having us. And I hope this was helpful and provided some insights and maybe sparked some ideas for some other programming out there. Thank you.
It was a pleasure to get out to your audience and, share all our experiences with them. So I appreciate it.
Excellent. And to our listeners, as always, thank you. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. And please check out the show notes for more information at insights.ibx.com. That's insights.ibx.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.